All right, so I will now introduce our speaker, Myrlie Marcelin, who is a clinical social worker, a psychotherapist, couple and family therapist, a wellness facilitator, and speaker based in Montreal, Quebec. Marlene worked towards empowering, supporting, and critically exploring individuals, couples, and families in a therapeutic and relational capacity. In addition to providing therapy, she facilitates psychoeducational workshops and events aimed at promoting mental health and well being. She has specific knowledge and expertise in addressing the unique issues and challenges encountered by Black communities in Montreal, along with other ethnic minorities and members of the LGBTQ plus community. Marlene approaches counseling with an anti oppressive, compassionate, and collaborative lens that recognizes the places of structural oppression and mental health challenges. She hopes her career will allow her to uplift BIPOC and LGBTQ plus communities by advocating for people whose voices has traditionally been ignored and overlooked, and by showing clients that BIPOC mental health professionals are working to reduce harm for the populations they serve. Due to the lack of Black mental health professionals that exist in Quebec, she also works to reduce mental health stigmas and intergenerational traumas within minority communities. So I would like to now present the floor to Myrlie Marcelin, our guest
Yeah.
speaker today.
Thank you so much, Dominique, and for the lovely intro. Everything you said was so uplifting. So happy to be here with all of you tonight. And I'm going to, if you don't mind, just share my screen just to give you guys the slides that we'll be looking at tonight. And just gonna widen that view. Continue to share this PowerPoint window. Continue. So hopefully everyone can see that. All right, so welcome to a healing trauma session. So rather than a session with a therapist, we have a session with therapy, but as a community, as a unit, where we just explore healing trauma, racial trauma, discrimination, and other areas that I think a lot of us as Black people or people of color are pretty familiar with. So I'm excited to share that with you. So on today's agenda, just briefly, to give you an idea of the areas we'll look at today, I'd like to go over just defining trauma, just so it's clear, even though we mostly know what it is, just a true definition to get us started on that. And then what is racial trauma, or how is it different? Stress, discrimination, healing trauma, and then open discussion and questions. So I have some slides prepared for you, but I'll do my best to keep it short so that we can just be together and then look at questions that might even already relate to some of the work in the slides. So I won't go over this again because Dominique already gave the intro. But basically, that's pretty much what I do, is work in private practice, seeing individuals and couples. Families don't come to family therapy as often as couples or individuals, so I don't have as much work with families. But I also try to work in the community for activism, speaking engagements, and other things, and stick to the areas of mental health that are more in my domain. So intergenerational trauma, anxiety, depression, attachment issues, relationship problems, communication, connection, boundaries, assertiveness. So those are the kind of areas I'm pretty skilled in, and especially with couples work because it's quite relational. So let's just talk a little bit about what is trauma. Um, I'm pretty sure you all know trauma in the sense of hearing the word, but in today's society, or in modern society, we have really popularized mental health and it trends upwards. But words like trauma and boundaries and gaslighting can kind of get confused for people, because get confusing for people because it's becoming a buzzword, but we don't actually learn how to define these things except for really quick talk and so let's see if I can mute. Okay, there. Thank you. So we popularize these terms, but we don't really look at the nitty-gritty or definitions of what these things mean or how they affect us as people. And so trauma itself is basically an event that can create a long-lasting mental or physical effect. And I think that's in part because it's unexpected when it occurs and it's outside of our control. So as human beings, we really don't like to be outside of our control. We don't like uncertainty. So when something unexpected or disturbing occurs, it's not necessarily about what happened to us. It's about what happened inside of us as a result of what happened to us if we don't get the adequate support that we need following a trauma. So it's not that if someone has a car accident, it's the car accident that necessarily traumatizes them, if that makes sense. It's the bodily experience or the physical and psychic injury that occurs in their body as a result of that. And so they may be triggered by cues like getting in a car, having to drive again, um, maybe the sight of a hospital if they had injuries. Or certain things will trigger cues in the body that create a physiological response inside of them that can create resistance, fear, and a number of other things like anxiety. And so, as human beings, we don't, again, do well with uncertainty or feeling out of control. And when we feel out of control, we can sometimes feel a sense of hopelessness, defeat. We can feel helpless at times, especially if the trauma occurs in childhood and it recurs repeatedly. So as occurs in childhood and repeatedly, the worse the outcome is for us as adults. If the trauma occurs after the age of 18 or in adult years, it's easier because our brain is more developed. And so in that way, we're more likely to feel we have more resiliency and holding. We have more of a community to go to. We have more tools at our disposal to take care of that. And we have more agency. As kids, we'll feel lost, we'll feel confused if we experience trauma because we don't have anybody to go to. If a parent doesn't secure the trauma or help contain it, a child will feel more out of control because their brain is flexible and malleable and still learning. So that's why we try to prevent trauma in childhood or do things something about it early so it doesn't impact the nervous system, the mind, and the body as much later on because it is more of a vulnerable experience compared to adults, as I said. And so trauma also impacts our sense of self. With a sense of self is basically your identity or how you form who you are, which is how you attach to yourself, how you attach to the world, and how you attach to others. And so it gives us a kind of a framework of how we see things. And so when we feel less power and agency due to trauma, we don't do as well because we believe our narrative is then that I can't do anything right, I'm not worthy, I'm not good enough. We don't maybe have healthy relationships with other people, so there can be effects. So trauma also can make you feel like you're stuck in a time warp. Instead of living in the present moment, you're feeling transported to the past. Um, when you grow up and life is going on, you sometimes feel like a younger part is taking over when you're stressed, when you're anxious, when you're having a fight with your partner or a friend. That's when the like traumatized part of you can come out. Maybe the 9-year-old you or the 8-year-old you or the 17-year-old you that had a trauma experience can start to show up in that moment because the past is being catapulted basically into the present because your body is in a state of distress. So it's why we have trauma responses like fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. So often people will fawn, which is when they people please or try to fix the problem that others have. So they have a codependent relationship with people where they're always trying to fix the problem, make everyone feel better. They overgive, they overfunction, they do too much. That's the fawn type of person. Then you have the fight person who's often going to get angry and yell, shout, get mad at others. And then there's the flee person that may withdraw, dissociate, feel numb, shut down. If someone yells at them, they might have their head down, they might avoid conflict. And so I think I mentioned fight, fawn, freeze. Freeze is kind of a functional freeze for some people. They just don't know what to do. They feel paralyzed in the moment. So they'll kind of notice like their body tenses up in the moment of trauma or in an argument with someone and they don't know why that happens. And in the moment, they wish they had fought back, they wish they stood up for themselves, but all they could do was freeze. So these are some of the responses that can occur when we're in a trauma response versus our adult, compassionate, normal, authentic self that feels in control, what we call the wise mind. And so trauma really permeates our culture because most of us want the opportunity to live a healthy life have a high quality of life satisfaction. But when we experience trauma, especially if it's a severe trauma, it can take a lot of effort to come back to ourselves, to heal, to feel good about who we are. And I believe most of you probably know these things, but sometimes we need to join in conversations like this to remind ourselves that these experiences happen to all of us. And which is why we can sometimes feel it's happening inside of us and we're alone. But when we talk about it, we realize, wait, you've also been through this, you've been through this. It connects us in a way where we feel a sense of solidarity and reassurance and commitment to knowing we're not alone in the fight and in the work to heal or in the work to better ourselves, because we need community for that. And so that's why I love this quote. Anything that is too much, too soon, or too fast, or too little for too long for our nervous system to handle, especially if we can't reach a successful resolution, is trauma. Trauma is not an event, but the energy that gets locked in our body around real or perceived threat. So what Peter Levine is saying is that it's an energy that we feel when we have experienced a threatening event that we then feel in threatening moments later on as adults or as children will feel when they're adults. Does that make sense? Yeah. So let's just move on then to what types of traumas. I'm just going to go through this quickly because it may not be as important, but I just wanted to give you all a sense of how you can experience acute trauma, chronic, complex, vicarious, intergenerational. So acute is a singular event. It means that it was a highly distressful or dangerous event that you had happen once. For example, a car accident that only occurred once is an acute trauma. Chronic trauma occurs repeatedly, so it's a highly disturbing event that is long term. So, for example, ongoing violence in the house or abuse from a partner that is lasting months to years. Complex trauma is multiple traumatic events that are often profound and interpersonal and pervasive. So it could be there was sexual violence and then domestic violence and then a car accident. So it's multiple traumatic things that are profound. And in vicarious trauma, it's indirect exposure to being in contact with someone who has survived trauma. And that can occur after listening to someone's story or watching or witnessing secondhand videos or audios online of traumatic experiences. So watching someone get shot, watching war videos, these things can sometimes traumatize us. People that work as therapists or doctors or uh, the people that come to your not pediatrics, was it paramedics? So paramedics, police officers, firefighters, therapists, social workers can experience vicarious trauma there because they're often in contact with people who have experienced it. Developmental is early exposure to trauma as a young child, or as a baby. Often it may occur in the home and it can disrupt a child's development. Historical is just something that happens in our history that we all have experienced. Intergenerational affects a single family across generation versus an entire cultural group. And then the collective is may not be people of the same culture, ethnicity, or race, but it experienced by a group of people. So economic disasters, 9/11, a mass shooting is a collective trauma. And I wondered, would anyone want to guess where we would put racial trauma? If you want to, no worries if no one wants to comment, but if anyone has an idea, you can go ahead,
Chronic,
check. It
chronic.
is absolutely, it is chronic. And it's actually also all of them. It can be all of them because racial trauma can occur developmentally. It can occur early on. It can occur collectively with a group of people. It can occur historically as it has through time due to slavery. It can occur intergenerationally as it kind of impacts us from one generation to the next. So that is why it's so pervasive and important to talk about. I just want to make sure. I think I saw something in chat. Thank you. Exactly. Thank you, Placid. You got it right. Um, and so basically, critical race theory views race as an invented social construct to oppress people through systemic racism. And it can be acute, again, one specific event that you experienced, or chronic, ongoing discrimination. But it also occurs again when we repeatedly witness other people be mistreated based on their race. So again, with the murder of George Floyd in 2020, we saw that. And that can impact us directly or indirectly. Um, so the word race basically was used to justify slavery. Then we ended slavery. But then racism and the impact of slavery coming together was felt in every generation, including now. We see it in the racial wealth gap. We see it in equity disparities. We see it in the U.S. just right now with DEI and all these things kind of being swept away, right? And so it it's sometimes hard for the Black people and people of color because even though we have different ethnicities and races, if we never invented the word race, we would all see one another as just human beings. But because the word race was invented to make people feel like a caste, so the darker your skin, the worse you are, it's become something that was permeated throughout culture and stereotyped as if you're Black, you're lazy, you're rude, you're loud, you're ghetto, you're this and that to justify bad treatment. So that is why trauma in a racial sense is so pervasive and detrimental to Black people or people of color because it continues to show up for people that do have those biases and racist beliefs and that may exclude people of color or do bad things to people of color based on those biases not ending and not stopping. So that's what's problematic about racial trauma is that it's chronic because we don't know when it will end. We have no idea when we'll live in an anti-racist world. So you have to deal with something that may occur for the next 100, 200 years. So you may have your whole life go on before you ever never experience racial. So let's move on because I think that is a helpful understanding. And one of my favorite, before I move on, actually, Mannequin or Rizma Mannequin, another psychotherapist says trauma decontextualized in a person looks like personality. Trauma decontextualized in a family looks like family traits, but trauma in a people can look like culture. And so that is why often in a culture like Black culture, we may see this traumatic experience be kind of everyday, something we just go through. We don't talk about it because as a culture, we're used to this experience. We've normalized it because it's so familiar, even though it harms us sometimes unconsciously. And also that it's one of the direct effects of living in a predominantly white culture. So if you're in North America, you're gonna have a different experience than a woman or a man in Haiti or Jamaica or Trinidad and Tobago or Nigeria because they're already in a predominantly Black culture. So they don't feel a sense of oppression as much. Maybe there's oppression for other things, but the oppression is not based on skin color as much, depending on where they are in the Caribbean or what beliefs are held about light skin or dark skin. But ideally, the fear, if you can't make it, it may not be due to race. It's you have more of that confidence. That's why research shows that people in the Caribbean or in African countries are more confident about their success, their abilities. They're more resilient to things that are related to race because they don't have this feeling of inferiority or internalized oppression or internalized racism as people, as Black people in Canada or North or in the US who don't see themselves reflected or represented as much in the systems because they might be five Black people at their job, maybe two, maybe one. So there is that feeling of aloneness or lack of belonging. So that is why we need to understand examples of racial trauma like slavery. How did that impact all the things you see underneath that? Microaggressions. Oh, your hair, touching your hair. Oh, how come you wear your makeup like that? Do you tan? Can Black people get dark? Or why does your culture what's your name? What all these questions that we may get asked by white people or other people that are not Black constantly, daily can exhaust your system, even if you try to ignore it, even if you don't participate, right? Hate crimes, watching people that look like you get hurt, police violence, over incarceration of Black men, colorism, people may be looking at you differently if your skin is darker or looking at you as not Black enough if your skin is lighter. Housing discrimination, workplace and hiring discrimination. There's research that shows that Black names on a CV are less likely to get chosen as a candidate versus whiter sounding names. That's a problem for Black people trying to find jobs. And that's also happening in Quebec and other places in Canada. Racial wealth inequities. For every dollar that a white person makes in Quebec, a Black person makes 75 cents. So that is harmful to our ability to have equity. Medical racism, Black women being not believed when they're in pain in hospitals. And then obviously systemic, structural, and institutional racism. So that is why, excuse me, sorry, institutionalized racism can plant a seed of cultural mistrust. And that explains a lot why a lot of Black people, whether Haitian, Jamaican, again, whether even if they're migrating or living in Canada or outside, may not want to seek out services in the medical system or in the mental health system. There's less trust in going to see a therapist or a social worker because they don't see themselves reflected in those jobs or in the actual academics that are taught to therapists about how to help Black people and understand the experience of someone Haitian versus someone Jamaican versus etc. I think you get the idea there. And so experiencing racism is not also just societal, it can be familial. You might feel made fun of by your family for being too dark or having really kinky, rough hair. You might feel academically there's issues at school or you don't feel included if you're made fun of for being Black. Interpersonally, it might happen with your friend group or feeling like you're not a part of the group if you speak too white. Sometimes Black people will hear people say that to them. Workplace. And so you can get it from all angles of these different systems as a systemic thinker in systems theory that can really impact the micro and macro level of people's lives. Because the systems that we are in shape our environment and then shape how we feel about ourselves, shape how we behave. So it's a really huge thing. So let's move on so we can get to questions or other things. So just wanted to give you guys an idea what can be some of the outcomes of, excuse me, of racial trauma and racial discrimination. I think most of these things probably won't surprise you if whether you've experienced it yourself or you know someone that shows some of these signs. So you can have some of these things, all of these things, one, maybe two that you feel, but when it's untreated, racial stressors can lead to the development of other comorbid disorders like depression or major depressive disorder, substance abuse disorder, so over drinking of alcohol, marijuana, or other hard, maybe more illicit drugs. It can lead to social anxiety disorder and even psychosis. And research shows that 30% of Black people and people of color suffer from some degree of racial trauma. And one of the strongest links and indicators of racial trauma is symptoms of post-traumatic stress disorder. So it could lead to unwanted memories. So unwanted memories, excuse me, that we have may lead people to avoid thoughts or feelings that remind them of the trauma. Then there's also negative self-perception. This refers to negative thoughts or self-talk about who you are, which can lead to negative thoughts about who you are and other people and the world, which can reinforce low mood. If your mood is low, you're more likely to be depressed. If you're more depressed, you're more likely to feel like it's harder to get up and do things. So that's why we want to work on changing these things. Hypervigilance is another issue. You're guarded, you're looking around at your environment, you're scared, everyone's a threat, everything's a threat. So that's someone that's on high alert. They're highly anxious, their nervous system is activated and reactive. And their guard is often up because they're looking for any sign of danger in their environment, but they're too vigilant. We need to have a little bit of vigilance when we're walking around, maybe after 9 p.m., but not everywhere we go do we want to think there's a bear running behind us. It's not healthy for our bodies. Changes in brain function. So trauma or racial trauma can impair your memory. It can impair your ability to manage your emotions and control your impulses. Physical problems like gastrointestinal issues, stomach issues, muscle tension, headaches, nausea can also occur. Let me just make sure okay. There's no one in the chat. Just thought someone maybe had a question. Um, Low immune system, getting sick more often. So that's where we also see how mental health problems or trauma impacts us at a physiological level. Often the two are linked. The mind and body are connected. So if I'm often a stressed person or I'm highly anxious, my gut is going to take the hit. I'm going to have gastro issues. If I'm always chronically like worried about who's around me, my muscle might tense. I might have lower back pain, upper back pain, headaches. So when people have migraines on a daily basis, they're wondering, I always have migraines. Often what they're forgetting is that there might be a mental health issue or a trauma linked to why those migraines started, because those issues don't just come up unnaturally. There's research that links adverse child experiences to later chronic health and physiological problems, strokes, heart attacks, high blood pressure, all of those things sometimes have an underpin of trauma. So how your early life was, how you were treated by your parents and your siblings and your community really can impact how your body is later. That's why it's so important who we surround ourselves with. And then severe anxiety can also occur, worry and fear. Um, that can lead to people pleasing. So people that are often trying to make everybody happy, not step on any eggshells, they're passive aggressive or passive. They avoid conflict. They don't like to confront others or assert themselves. They may have severe anxiety, and so they worry about how people perceive them constantly, which is exhausting their system too. But that can be a symptom of PTSD, racial trauma, or feeling like you have to be perfect so that white people or other people don't judge you as being an angry Black woman or judge you as being too much, or, oh, she's not nice when she doesn't smile at work. So these are things that Black people and Black women may have to think of more readily, especially in, again, when they work in very predominantly white spaces or jobs where the majority of their team is white and they're not reflected in the system as much. Code switching. So instead of speaking very with maybe with a Haitian accent or with like some Black African American vernacular English or with what we would say like slang, we might tighten it up a little bit at work and make sure we speak with very proper English and that we're kind of very uppity and bougie so that we don't get judged by our colleagues. So these are some of the really insidious things that trauma can do that we don't always pay attention to on a day-to-day. Irritability, anger, flashbacks. I won't go through all of them for the sake of time. Am I doing okay for time, Dominique? I want to make sure I'm not over 30 minutes, but I'm good. Thank you. Okay. Um, so now let's look at healing trauma before we go into questions, reflection. Um, this is the more hopeful side because what we're talking about is very heavy. I should have mentioned as a disclaimer, this is not an easy topic. It's hard to talk about trauma. It's hard to talk about violence and hate crimes and shootings and war and disaster. So I hope you guys give each other or yourselves grace if you need to step back or if this is a lot. I understand. Mental health discussions usually are kind of, a little heavy sometimes for us. And I want to just give an example. Actually, before we move on to one thing I noticed a lot as a therapist in the Black community, most of my clients are Black men and women, mostly Black women. And my couples too are often Black couples coming to therapy, Haitian couples, Jamaican couples, African couples. Emotional numbing is what I see the most in our community. So an example is, um, I'm good, I don't need anybody. I'm fine by myself. No, you just have to put your head up and keep going. Everything is going to be just okay. And kind of, or this kind of head down, work, grind, go. So in the Black community, there's sometimes this suppressing, pushing down of emotions and feelings rather than just saying it's normal that I have feelings. We tend to shy away from them, push them down, and live this more emotionally numbing life. Not all Black people, we're obviously a monolith, we have different experiences, but I often see this kind of strong, guarded barrier that is sometimes hard to penetrate, right? Or this to kind of get through because I think we've learned to hold ourselves really high, and but it's a beautiful thing too, and be resilient so that we can get through life and survive. But when we don't really feel what we need to feel and we don't feel it's okay to cry, we think being vulnerable is weak in the Black community. We don't live the fullness of our humanity because we're ignoring a part of our lives, a part of our body that needs us to not just survive, but thrive. So Black people are at risk of just surviving and grinding and hustling because they don't take a moment to pause, rest, relax, and acknowledge what they feel and communicate about how they feel as out of fear that they'll be stereotyped as weak, less than, or too sensitive, especially Black men. So that's something we want to watch out for in our community. Something I really like to name because I see it often. Um, I wanted to go over a couple others, but I'll skip them. I think you all get the point ideally, like shock, denial, confusion, minimization, how those things can harm us. And then managing stress, one thing I'll say is that this just means being able to understand, process, and reflect. And if you dissociate from your body and how you feel, you might have a hard time being able to manage when you get stressed or when you are dealing with something unexpected. And finally, nightmares and upsetting thoughts can happen as well. Isolation, embarrassment, blame, when mood changes occur as a result of trauma. And so these practices that I added here are racial and radical practices as well as embodiment practices and creative practices. The reason I say the word embodiment is that that just means being able to feel what happens in your body. And as I mentioned before, because the Black community struggles to relax sometimes and they're often doing. So again, this hyper doing, hyper, like over functioning, overworking, especially Black women. The idea is how do you practice self-preservation, self-restoration, self-determination? So the ability to relax, the ability to rest, pause, go outside, have a cup of tea, not be on your phone for 30 minutes, just to do nothing, walk, be in nature, listen to music, practice spirituality, going to church, meditating, anything that helps you come back to yourself and not just survive, but again, thrive, have a life that has meaning and makes you feel like complete or fulfilled is through these acts, singing, self-compassion, poetry, limiting the amount of time you spend online, getting 8 hours of sleep a night, eating foods that help nourish your stomach rather than make you feel sick the next day, art. So again, really take into account how do you practice self-determination, preservation, and restore yourself. If you don't have a practice for those three things, you might be in a trauma response where you're just surviving and getting by and not living life in other realms that are not just doing and working. We're not human doings, we're human beings, right? And then activism. We can channel our inner Audre Lorde. We can channel our inner Bell Hooks. We can channel the feminist or civil rights activists that paved the way for us to get to where we are today to heal trauma. So when you practice empowerment, you can work through feelings of hopelessness or helplessness about the way the world looks and engage in issues that are important to you through activism, again, advocacy. But we can't have either one of these without rest. If you don't take care of yourself, you can't do the work of activism, right? So the best we can give to the world is the ability to take care of ourselves so that we can be in community and affect change. And that is actually one of the ways I like to practice healing trauma is through this right here with you all, is being able to talk about this helps me heal because I'm giving back to my community or talking about things that I think are important and hope that I even reach one person while I'm doing something. It's not nothing at all, right? It's planting a seed that might grow into connection or other things that I will never know. Um, and then finally, connecting to nature. We take for granted when you research shows you just observe green, you actually have a healthier brain cognitively just by looking at green for 5 minutes. So don't take for granted being outside and looking at the sun or looking at trees. It may look silly when people are doing that, but it actually helps your day to day so much. If you have a morning routine where you just go outside for 5 minutes, you're actually more likely to sleep better. So everything you do in your day creates the better ability to have good rest, basically, right? And so other types of healing trauma work can be aromatherapy, it can be relaxing, enjoying personal pursuits, taking a personal day off, traveling, adventuring. And remember, racial self-care is a social justice tool, and it's allowed marginalized communities or Black communities to survive because it's allowed us to promote self-restoration in an environment that often wants to oppress us or make us just keep running and doing, right? And so that's why I love the quote that we aren't free until we're all free. So the more free you all are, the more free I am. So it's a give and take. When we give back to others, we do have a happier life. We do feel more satisfied. We do feel more hopeful. And research shows that people that donate or help charity, do things that allow them to give back are happier. They're more satisfied. It is one of the predictors of happiness is how much you give back. Um, especially men because they have a harder time finding a way to give back in community the way women just naturally do, so they can feel that effect, right? Um, and if you have a healthy relationship to yourself, you will have healthy relationships with other people because it starts with you. So this is why these things are so important. And um, I also want to mention that like healing is a form of agency. So it's also allowing you to engage in a value you might have around helping other people or being self-affirming. And it can include also voting, signing petitions, donating, teaching people, advocating for anti-racist policies to promote social change, racial equity, collective empowerment, and solidarity. So again, humming, singing, all of that is combined together to create that kind of beautiful ability to be with other and be with self in a way that just nurtures our body. And let's see I think one more I had for you. This slide, I might skip it for the end so we can look at that next time. But I just want to let you all know that there's other ways too, like psychotherapy. If you really feel like you've done everything and you notice you still experience triggers, you still respond through a trauma response, you still get angry or very hyperactive or very shut down, or one or the other, or both, when you're distressed and you've tried everything, there's no shame in going to psychotherapy. There's no shame in maybe speaking to your church pastor as well, if you have one, about getting support from the church, or speaking to someone that you trust as a mentor or coach if you're not comfortable with seeing a therapist. That's okay. It's not for everyone. And I would never push that on anyone, even as a therapist. I know therapy is not the be all end all. There are other ways to heal. And it's one way, but there are many ways. And you would still use it in tangent with other things. You wouldn't just do it alone, right? Just like you wouldn't just use one way to help you heal. You would use many resources so that you don't just rely on one thing. There's also support groups, financial resources if you're dealing with financial struggles, and housing and food. That can sometimes be of service to people in communities that really need it, especially if you're in the lower income bracket. That's something that helps people feel like they have some sense of agency when they get that type of communal support and that people have their back. And then there's also um, being able to find a therapist, if you do choose to do that, that respects and acknowledges your cultural history, that has the ability to be what we call trauma informed. So that means that they consider making sure you feel safe and trusted, and that you can trust them. It will help ease the process if that's something that you ever are interested in trying. Okay. And I had, sorry, two more slides, but I'm just checking the time. I don't know how long I've been speaking because I don't see the time. 7:16. Oh, okay. 7:25. So I feel like people could have questions. Maybe I should skip these two slides and move on. I'm sorry about the time. I didn't
You're
realize.
good.
Yeah.
Goodness, you're good.
Okay. Thank you. So should I finish these two slides then? And then, okay, I'll try to go faster because
Sure, sure.
I didn't even see the, thank you, Adeline. Um, so what I want to talk about is, in the order of healthy anger, I would put first, and then practicing authenticity. Because anger is a natural, healthy, and needed feeling. When we feel a sense of injustice or a boundary we have has been violated, that's when we tend to feel angry. It reminds us, though, that we have boundaries, we have limits, and that we have needs. And when that line has been crossed, in a violent or slightly violent way, or even if it's not violent, but just someone has crossed the line for us, we need to let that response out and say no, because I believe underneath anger is often resentment or grief or sadness. And it's probably better for us to explore that than to suppress it, because that only leads to shame when we suppress our anger. So if you have an emotion or a feeling, even if it's anger, it's legitimate. Feelings are just motivators. They're just trying to give you information. And we tend to vilify in our society people that feel angry because we've only made anger socially acceptable if we're yelling or shouting or getting out of our car and showing the boss, who's the man. But constructive anger is the ability to actually tell somebody that you're angry at them without shouting. It's the ability to behave in a way that doesn't say, I can feel the emotion, I don't have to act on it. I can be angry. That doesn't mean I am angry all the time or I have to behave in an angry way. I can be sad. I can be upset. I can be happy. I don't have to act that feeling out. So if ever you were ever told, don't feel your feelings, it's not okay, know that every feeling is legitimate. You just have to acknowledge the feeling, accept the feeling, normalize that you feel it, and then it's going to go away. that acceptance is going to allow you to come back to yourself rather than if we try to suppress our emotions or overact them out, we're not going to do well. So just keep that in mind when you think about acceptance. Yes, Rosita.
So I want to say thank you so much for
Thank
this
you.
important presentation,
Thank you.
especially now.
Appreciate
As for the, I mean, when I'm listening and thinking about my fellow Haitian
Mm,
um community. So
hmm.
when you look at I mean in Haiti right now, when we're thinking about vicarious trauma, we're talking
Hmm.
about complex trauma. We're talking
Hmm.
about um uh what was the other one? Like trauma as a whole. Like
Yeah. Developmental, collective,
collective
yeah.
trauma.
Cultural and collective, yeah.
So so let's just take into consideration a 6 year old, a 8 year old
Hmm.
living in Haiti, um, experiencing all these type
Yeah.
of trauma.
Yeah.
Now we're talking, in order to heal,
Mm,
we're talking about self care. We're talking
yeah.
about anger. If
Mm,
okay, let's even say so. Everybody's walking around angry, and you don't
right.
even have anybody to express
Right.
the anger.
Yeah.
So how exactly? Because I am myself.
Hmm.
I'm not saying overwhelmed, but I feel burned out
Mm,
whenever I'm having a session with someone from Haiti,
hmm.
individually or a group.
Mm.
I don't even know how to like like help people to regulate.
Right.
So
Right.
what do we do? Like how
Mhm.
do those people I mean they in a survival mode
Right.
every day. Like there is no self care. Like
Right.
I don't even know what to tell people. I don't know if you I don't know. I need therapy myself.
Yeah, I feel you.
In order to serve those people,
Yeah.
I am powerless. I am
Hmm.
talking like even
Hmm.
if I'm having a session over the phone,
Hmm.
if I'm having it, I travel a lot. I travel
Hmm.
a lot because I feel my calling and I feel like, I mean I need to be in the midst of people a lot of times in
Yes.
order to serve them. Either family member or
Hmm.
church member or
Hmm.
people I don't know in the community. I just gather people together. But
Hmm.
it is so overwhelming
Hmm.
that oh my God. Like, how do you tell those people, things, I mean, this is like, I don't even have the correct recommendation. Like, I don't
Hmm.
even know what to do.
Hmm. Yeah.
It
Thank you
is
for
sad.
bringing that up. Yeah. So did you have more to add, Rosita? Oh, yeah.
No, I'm good
Okay. No,
for now.
I could listen to you go because it's relevant what you're saying. So it's, yeah. I want to thank you first for bringing that up, and second for the work you're doing because I can imagine it's hard and why you would be burnt out. And this is why I wanted to bring up that idea of the how Black people, especially Black women, can really grind and hustle and do a lot to the detriment of their health. And as you said, it's not always allowing for self-preservation and self-care when you're always surviving. I think if you're working in those settings, and I have sometimes worked in the community, and I think it's about repetition. So it's gonna be maybe hard to do and maybe even frustrating at times to keep repeating yourself. But I think that sometimes we have to keep saying the same thing again, that it's okay to feel that way. It's okay for you to be angry. It's okay for you to be, of course, you're surviving. Of course, you're angry about surviving. Of course, you don't have time for self-care. So rather than trying to tell someone, oh, you need to take a bubble bath, you need to get therapy, I don't give them all those tools. I just acknowledge that they are surviving. They are in a threat response. They are feeling traumatized because I'm not going to sit there and lie to you. So that's what I mean by healthy anger and acceptance is the ability to radically at a fundamental level, just let someone be rooted in what they feel in that moment and to say, of course you would feel the way you do. And it may not be much because, like you said, we cannot change the systems altogether we can, but not by ourselves. So if anything, what you're giving that community is just the ability to have someone that they can vent to, that is going to say, I see you. And it means a lot to
Yeah.
people, more than we think,
Hmm.
just to tell them, I see.
That's pretty much.
Does that
That's
make
pretty
sense?
much. It's just
Yeah.
creating
Yeah.
a platform for them to vent. But then you'd
Yeah.
like to do more
Of
because
course.
even you don't see
Mm.
the hope. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, it's just so hard. And even if the hope
Absolutely.
is there, like
Hmm.
it is in the shadow, but
Mm.
I mean, can you even tell people like you come in from somewhere else and you
Mm.
come in to tell them you're not experiencing this, but
Hmm.
at least I mean, I'm here. But I mean, people acknowledge like I
Mm.
mean, they
They know.
really like they
Hmm.
yeah they happy that they have someone to talk to, but it is
Right.
so hard. Like leaving those people behind, and what
Hmm.
it's gonna be for those
Mm.
8-year-olds. I mean, 10 year
Yeah.
old, like, I mean, they trying to figure life. They don't have their family. Oh my God, it is so hard.
It must be so devastating. And I know what you mean. Sometimes you feel like, of course I acknowledge them, but how can I do more? Like how that's not going to get them into a better life or a better feeling if I just say, I see you and I hear you, because beyond that, but what can I do? Is that what you mean?
Exactly. And
Yeah.
you see people coming with autoimmune disorders. You
Mhm.
see people coming with the
Mm.
diabetes.
Mm. Mm.
Hello,
It's all
don't
about
mean to
it's
interrupt.
all
but
related.
For the program, I was wondering
Sorry.
if you're checking to see if the Q&A will start soon.
Yes, yes,
Oh,
actually,
I'm sorry.
sorry to cut you off, Rosita.
No,
Um,
I'm good. I'm good. Thank you.
No worries, but come back after. We're gonna just move on. So I think I gave enough of a explanation here. It might come back up anyways, this idea of anger, authenticity. But I just wanted to leave with that. And then finally, I want to name that one of the best ways to heal trauma is social connection, because the most successful form of healing trauma is support. So research shows that the highest predictor of happiness is the quality of the relationships you have, not relationships, the quality. So if the quality of the relationships in your life are healthy, connective, supportive, empathetic, nurturing, you will have uh, a healthy outcome on across all boards: mental health, physical health, stomach, gut, brain, everything is on a higher scale in terms of the outcome of the human being. So that's how important connection is. So just one last thing I want to name, because I feel you can't not talk about trauma without support. But I think Rosita kind of led that because she mentioned this, and this is what it is. It's self-compassion and compassion from others. So um, let me move on then. So that was the last slide. I was just gonna say that I will give these to Marie-Josée or Perrette in case it's helpful. So just, it may or may not be helpful to you all, but these are some of the research studies I used for today's conversation, and some books and mindfulness practices that you might like, and some podcast episodes that I used that inspire uh, more of these conversations, but in more detail. Okay. Again, more resources, some questions. In case we don't have any questions, I created some that we can use if things get a little quiet. And then here we are.
All right. Hello. We have now entered the Q&A session part of the program. If anybody have any questions for our guest speaker, you may raise your hand or lift up an emoji or even write a question in the chat. I will say that each Q&A should be limited for around 1 to 2 minutes. And I see our first, and if anybody have any questions, they can start by raising their hand. Marie-Josée, are you raising your hand?
No, that hardly knows anything.
I was clapping, but I can have a question. Um, um,
Sorry.
you can translate if it is French or Creole.
Okay.
French is okay for you. But je sais que Myrlie comprend le français, mais
Je
elle va
comprends
parler
français.
l'anglais.
Mais je peux
Tu peux,
parler en français des fois, mais je parle mieux en anglais, c'est ça. Mais je comprends
oui, c'est
pas
ça, mais
français.
tu
Oui,
comprends le français.
c'est ça, c'est bien sûr.
Oui.
Oui.
ma question va être en français parce que c'est plus facile pour moi.
Myrlie,
Mes
you can stop
questions m'a dit
sharing.
en créole.
You can stop sharing your
Créole.
screen.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I forgot about that. Perfect.
Oh,
Yes.
that's okay.
Okay.
Dominique comprend créole. Non? OK.
Ouais. I understand Creole too, so it's good.
OK, bon me dire en créole parce que
Mhm.
plus monde qui tout le monde comprend créole là.
Okay.
Et puis on met en répondant, you can answer in English. It's okay
Okay.
for me.
If I mess up a word in Creole that I don't understand, can I just ask you to say it in French if I'm bad
Bon,
at
je vais le dire en
Oh,
français. Je crois
okay.
que ton
Yeah.
créole est pas mal
But
loin de
my
la barrière
understanding,
là.
my understanding is better than my speaking, but I wanted to practice like, okay, did I understand everything she said? But maybe after I'll try.
OK. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Je
Yes.
veux te remercier. I want to thank you. Thank you for
Thank
everything.
you.
Je
Yeah.
sais que c'est ta pratique et ce
Mhm.
que tu fais, c'est comme pro bono pour nous parce que c'est ce que tu fais pour ta vie, pour le
Right.
travail. Et
Yeah.
je te remercie. Je sais pas comment. Et aussitôt que j'ai demandé à Myrlie, elle a dit, écoute, je vais être disponible. En
Yeah.
tout cas, merci.
Thank
Merci
you
beaucoup.
and for
Merci.
having me. Yeah.
Et pour ceux qui ne la connaissent pas, c'est la fille de ma cousine.
Yes.
Bon, la question que j'ai, c'est une expérience. Je voudrais savoir comment prendre ça. Dans mon travail, j'ai une dame qui elle est canadienne, caucasienne, et elle, à chaque fois que nous parlons, elle est dans un milieu francophone, OK? Sa mère est dans un milieu francophone, mais elle ne parle que l'anglais avec nous.
Okay.
Et quand elle nous parle en anglais, elle nous dit, quand elle veut avoir une réponse, la réponse qu'elle a qui est dans sa tête, elle ne l'a pas. Là, elle te dit que c'est une question de barrière, barrière de langue. Et elle est très mine avec nous. Et la façon qu'elle parle, c'est comme, OK, would you please spell it for me because I feel like you don't understand what I said. It is like that all the time.
Understanding.
My last intervention, ma dernière intervention avec elle, j'étais obligée, j'ai dit, écoutez, elle parlait, j'étais obligée de ne pas parler. J'ai resté en silence. Alors, je suis restée en silence et puis après, elle m'a dit, OK, do you understand why you do not answer? Ma réponse pour elle, you know, I don't really understand English. I will pass you to my manager. Et j'ai appelé je lui ai dit, cette femme, je pourrais la répondre et je sais qu'elle parle français parce que sa mère est francophone, mais elle veut nous parler, elle nous minimise. Mais par contre, moi, je vous la transfère et je ne veux plus la parler. Je me demande, est-ce que c'était une bonne façon? En t'écoutant, j'ai l'impression qu'on aurait pu faire différemment. J'aurais pu faire différemment. Est-ce qu'il y a une façon que j'aurais pu adresser cela? Parce que ce n'est pas la première fois. Elle le fait avec nous tous. What could we do?
Right.
Et c'est quelque chose d'actuel là. Et elle continue à le faire. What could we do?
Elle continue à le faire toujours. Mais c'est ça, ça peut être vraiment ça peut te déranger aussi comme personne parce que tu es toujours en train d'être dans cet environnement avec quelqu'un comme ça. Alors, je pense que I'll do a bit of franglais. Like, I think it's absolutely normal to be angry or annoyed. And you've probably tried more than once to do like kind of like the polite civil way, and now you're like, okay, lady, you're testing me, right? And so I think that's why self-preservation is important. There's no perfect answer to your question because it could go two ways. You could, one, take the time to explain to her that what she's doing is slightly racist and there's bias in her.
Parce qu'elle le fait vraiment avec les Noirs. Même
That's
si
what I
une
mean.
blanche a un accent, elle a dit qu'elle ne comprend pas l'accent. Il y a beaucoup d'Africains, beaucoup d'Haïtiens et d'autres nationalités, mais de couleur noire. Et elle ne s'adresse qu'aux Blancs, même si la personne de couleur blanche n'a pas la réponse, ou c'est quelqu'un même qui passe le ménage, elle pose des questions de nursing à quelqu'un qui n'a pas la réponse, mais qui a la couleur. C'est comme si la couleur te donne le PhD. C'est comme ça, je le sens.
Yeah, absolutely. And so that's what I was going to ask you actually, is it mostly with Black people and people of color? Because that's what I was assuming based on
Yes.
the story. And so that, so I think that's what I mean by self-preservation is whatever you feel it needs to be for you and your needs and your values and what you have the bandwidth to handle. Because maybe your capacity is not to educate this woman. Maybe you feel that's too exhausting and that's not preserving yourself. So it depends on that, right? You can say, one, there could be someone explaining to her that her response is biased, whether unconscious or not, or racist in a lot of ways. That might not go well if she's not willing to educate herself and has no self-awareness. And obviously, there's a lack of self-awareness because she keeps repeating the same thing. Um, or you can back out of the situation the way you did. You can say, I no longer want to be addressing this woman. I will no longer be addressing this woman because I don't want to be okay with putting myself up with racist behavior. I don't want to be privy to that type of behavior and have people access me and try to be condescending towards me just so they can feel better, right? So I think that what's more important is how well you can explain to your manager if he or she says, I'm going to have a problem with you not wanting to talk to this woman. You could explain because it's a racial issue that makes you not want to have that connection.
Thank you.
Does that make sense?
Actually, it is very good
Yeah,
because my manager, he understand and he said, okay, let me take care of it.
you
And it
got it.
is set up. But I just would like to have maybe an answer to give to the others, maybe to act
Yeah,
the same way that I act. This
absolutely.
is
Yeah.
that I have to pass to the others, maybe.
Right. Like that they also know they can tell their manager what their limit is
Yes.
and acknowledge it's normal I'm angry. It's normal that I'm frustrated. It's normal that this feels racist and like a microaggression. It's so as long as you also take care of yourself by acknowledging how you feel, your body is going to thank you for it because it's a gift you're giving to yourself to say these things I'm feeling are not crazy, they're normal.
Thank you so much. Thank you
That
for
makes
the
sense?
answer.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you, Auntie.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. For our next question, I would like to call on Adeline for her question. And as for time crunch, we have about almost 20 minutes left, I would say. So let's keep our questions nice and tight so everybody can have a chance.
Thank you. Thank you, Dominique. Thank you, Myrlie.
Thank you.
I was a little busy,
Yeah.
but you attract me to the,
Oh, I'm so happy.
my
Thank you.
goodness. You said so many things,
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
and I don't know how to say thanks to
Oh,
you.
thank you.
I have so many questions. I don't know where to start, but I'm going to say
Okay.
something.
Yeah.
I'm going to make a statement.
Yes,
It
please.
might look like a question.
Mm,
Are we all having some type of trauma
mm.
as Black Haitian women? Are we?
100%, yes.
Okay, I wanted to know.
Yeah, I do
Because
believe.
living in Jamaica for
Mm,
19 years,
mhm.
I know what Marie-José is talking about.
Yes.
Because Jamaican
Mm,
don't like Haitian
mhm,
and certain type of Haitian. If they
mhm,
see you up to them, you maybe measure more than they do, or you
mhm,
do better at work
mhm,
than they do.
mm,
All of this can be
mm.
very harmful for you working there.
Absolutely.
And while you were talking about racial microaggression,
Mhm.
I was thinking, I was wrong by sometimes living for 19 years being angry about the way they're asking,
Yeah.
where do you from because of your accent? Where do you from? Where do you from?
Mhm,
Or if you said you don't like Haitian, all
mm,
those type of things make
mhm.
you on the edge,
Yes.
very aggressive, and this is not you actually.
That's what it's the trauma
It's
response.
not a matter
Yeah.
of is it a matter to protect yourself by
Yeah.
acting like this?
Yes.
And sometimes they said, where do you from? I said, this is not on your business. Or I would say, curiosity kills the cat, something like that to protect myself.
Right.
I was feeling always being attacked by
Yeah.
those people.
Right.
So my question, how can we make the world? I'm thinking big, but that is my thinking. I'm going to say it anyway. How can we say to the world that Haitian has a part of this community we are living in? Where I live, I don't have any problem. It's mostly white.
Yeah.
They don't have any relationship with Haitian.
Right.
I am okay. I don't have any problem with my accent. They accept my accent. Where I live, they don't have any problem. I'm living in Arkansas. You might have an image of, more white than whatever. I don't find Haitian at all in my community at all. So they might not know our situation as Haitian. And how can we make the world, in our job, in our community, in our church, sometime between Haitian, we don't treat other Haitian like we're supposed to treat them. How can we reverse that? How can we correct that? I know it's a big question, but maybe you might say a few words about that.
Yeah, I'll do my best. Thank you, Adeline. It's such a good question and a good reflection too of your experience. And as you see, like cross Caribbean cultures also showing intergroup discrimination, and that's harmful, right? I think it's about pride in our culture and empowerment. And I'll do my best because I get very passionate about answering too, and I go on too long, and I'm sure there's other questions. So I'll try to go fast to say that I think it's about if we believe as a community that we have something to offer as Haitian people, like we truly believe it in our core, that we see beauty in our culture, we're going to emulate that in how we talk about it. And so it's also how do we empower each other and others. So actually, that's not true. I don't think, did you actually know that Haitian people, well, actually on January 1st, when we have Soup Jumu, this is what it means. Actually, so it's sometimes it's educating others, again, using self-preservation. If that for you feels like exhausting to do, it's understanding what works for you the most. So, and there's also talking to other Haitian people that understand your struggle so that you find that it helps give you the oomph to keep going back out there and doing it all over again every day. So encouragement and solidarity is another way. Empowerment and we being nice to each other. It's through community that we get better. It's through social support and through connection that we thrive as humans because we're social creatures. So if we as Haitians are kind to one another, we lift each other up. We don't hurt each other for hair, race, skin tone, weight, size, anything, background, gender, any like these things or sexual orientation will more likely thrive because if we're connected, then we're going to give that out to other people, right? And so I think that's one way. It's who's in your circle? How can the quality of the people in that circle love one another rather than being against? And if you see that, call it out. That's how I think we got to call it out when we see someone acting that way, even in our own community.
The thing is, we don't love each other.
We need to,
And
though.
especially here now, because of those who are coming from Haiti right now for 2 years ago, and they are criticizing them a lot.
Yeah, I've seen
You
it.
don't hear what the Haitian are doing. You don't see what the Haitian are doing. You don't see their feeling. You don't see how they're doing, how they walk in the street, how they do this, how they do.
May I cut in? I'd also like to read in Shirley's question because I feel like it has a bit to do with this. And she did thank you for your valuable information, but she did say, how can healing be supported in Haitian communities where trauma is often normalized or silenced or considered taboo?
Yes. Thank you so much, Shirley, for your answer. And anyone in the chat that expressed thanks, I appreciate you. I noticed I went through fast, so I didn't get to see everything. So thank you so much. And I do think, Adeline, that Shirley's question ties into what you're saying. And so I think that
Oh,
um,
yes. Oh,
how
yes.
we can how can healing be supported in Haitian communities? It's by, I think, talking back, Shirley, about that, by disrupting the status quo. And when you hear that type of rhetoric, challenge it and say, it's not normal. It's not okay. Like, it's normal that we're going to have trauma, but it's not okay that we just say, because of that, we just have to move on and put our head down and keep going. If you don't deal with your trauma is going to deal with you. If you don't confront it, what is hurting you, it will confront you, because miserable people try to make others miserable. And so when you're healed, you will try to heal others. It will feel like an embodied experience. So call out when you hear someone saying horrible things to about trauma. Call out when you hear them say emotions are not real. We have them in Haitian community too. We just use different words for it. We just have different ways of calling it. We have different mechanisms for how we experience it. Doesn't mean it's not there. Um, and if you hear that rhetoric and it reverberates inside of you, you feel internalized, work on that. Make sure that that doesn't penetrate in you and you start to actually believe it. If you're not able to affect or change the person you're talking to or persuade them to see a different view, that's not on you. You've done your part. You can only control your own behavior. You can't change people. We can only change ourselves. So your work is only to name what you're noticing, call it out, challenge it. The rest is on that person, and their self-awareness is and growth is not up to us. But don't normalize it. Don't go with the status quo. Don't people please and just try to say, I'm not going to say anything. Say that you disagree, talk about it. And I think as long as you don't go with silencing it and also perpetuating that and affirming that silence, it will eventually end with this generation. But if you stay silencing it as well, we'll continue having the same communal problems. So I know there's so much more I want to say on that topic, but I'm out of time. But it's such an important question, Shirley and Adeline. So thank you.
All right. We have another question from Monique. She asks, how do you handle microaggressions when you're the only Black person in your surroundings?
This is an excellent question, Monique. And also for anyone that speaks French, if there's anything I'm saying that you don't understand, let me know. I'll do my best to just j'allais essayer de le dire encore, mais en français, pour que ça soit plus comme facile pour tout le monde qui est là puis qui parle français mieux qu'anglais. So for Monique, that is one way I would say. There's many different ways. You can, if you're in therapy, bring it to your clinician and find different ways to have boundaries, tools, and things like that. If that's not an option for you, a second option is trying to talk to colleagues at work if you have them in other departments. So that's one thing I used to do at Concordia University in McGill when I worked there as a wellness counselor and a lecturer, speaker, whatever. I would go to other people. I had to find my community. I had to go out of my way, which is what Black people have to do. It can be exhausting, but going out of my way so that I could share that with someone else. If that's still not an option, three, making sure that you take care of yourself before you address it with someone, if that's something you feel you need to do. What I mean by that is you go in your office, you take a breath to acknowledge that you feel either hurt, annoyed, frustrated, angry, whatever it is. Because if you take the moment to self-regulate and validate your experience, you're less likely to project it on other people and expect someone to take care of your emotions. So when people take the time to breathe, say, I'm very upset, damn it, I can't believe this happened again, they're actually calming the body down in the nervous system. Your nervous system is going to go back into what we call a window of tolerance. So you can tolerate what's happening in your environment because your vision is not hypo-aroused, so angry, or hypo-aroused, where you're shut down and you feel numb and frozen. So if you want to avoid those two states or both, you acknowledge how you feel, you validate or normalize it, and then you go to a supportive person. If that's not an option, you can address it with the person directly if you feel you can. If you don't feel comfortable with that option, you can bring it to higher management if you feel this is a very broad communal issue you're noticing and that you feel needs to be changed at a systemic level and you can't do it alone. Because Black women, research shows, are the first to notice often when something is wrong in a company's equity, diversity, racism, biases. So if you're noticing something, Monique, you're probably right, because we're the first to notice when a company has issues at a policy and systemic level. That's probably not surprising to anyone here, but that means you're onto something. So I hope that reassures you that if you experience it, at least you don't gaslight yourself. Don't manipulate yourself into twisting it, into saying it's not true. At least give yourself the grace of normalizing it if no one else will.
All right.
I hope that helps. That's a quick version, Cliff Note version. There's more to say on that, but yeah.
For our next question, we have Sir Perret.
Yes.
Oh, you're muted.
Muted, Perret.
All right. Thank you. Oh my goodness. Myrlie, thank you.
Thank you.
Well, you did it. You nailed it.
Thank you.
Non, content. Merci. Comme Marie-Josée était déjà dit, que Marie-Josée était pour en contact ensemble avec vous et vous pas faire hommage à Déo pour venir offrir tant ça ensemble avec nous. Connaissance ou partager ensemble avec nous, ça vraiment, nous vraiment apprécier, nous vraiment apprendre en pile.
En pile.
Yeah. Donc, il y a une chose que m'apprécier dans la présentation, c'est leur dit que client gagnant, c'est un pile noir et puis coupe haïtien, coupe, etc. Parce que dans la communauté noire, nous pas, comme si le monde pas aimé aller ouais et thérapie. Si on pas aimé, comme si on pas connaît raison derrière, mais comme si on bat bravo, si majorité monde rencontre c'est monde pas nous, donc ça veut dire que gain un travail qu'a fait. So this is why we having this kind of conversation because we want to make people more aware of that and the services there and then the importance of it. Parce que c'est pas comme si nous connaissons, ou te dit ça dans la présentation là tout, en plus le monde pense comme si c'est eux même qui connaît. Quand ils connaissent, well, qui ça va dire en plus? Qui ça va apprendre là?
Exactement.
Donc il est important pour nous capables apprécier ça.
C'est ça.
So, non, moi je voulais dire que communauté Tabitha the Tabitha community is where like non le rencontrer comme si on te dit que ça une façon pour capable dire ça avec trauma is just meeting with other people in your community and talk about so we try to be there for each other and talk about it and create an environment where people can feel comfortable enough to share whatever they feel like sharing, and then so to support each other. And I really appreciate everything that you do and everything, all the knowledge that you shared with us. Thank you so much. And I like that quote that you mentioned in one of your slides from Menachem.
Yeah,
Resma
Black psychotherapist. Yeah.
Thank you. I don't want to take much time because we don't have much left. So I know there are other hands up, so I'm just gonna.
Thank you, Auntie, so much.
All right. For our next question, we have iPhone Marie L.
Yes, merci. Tout d'abord, on me dit un grand merci, une great appreciation parce que présentation excellente. Et il répond surtout à moi-même personnellement et à la situation par moi et je pense beaucoup d'autres. Voilà. Questionnement, on parle en créole, c'est nous supposons qu'il y ait des connexions pour ça aider notre trauma. Mais dans un cercle de famille, par exemple, des membres de famille, et puis situation soulevée, ici et là, et puis une intervention, soit essayer de faire une intervention, et puis il y a dit comme ça que vous comprenez bien l'autre là a un problème. Il était fait face à une petite difficulté, et donc il faut nous essayer de garder le ballon de toute façon. Et puis, excusez-moi, peut-être que vous parlez de la noire. Et donc, l'autre a dit comme ça que non. Moi-même, ça me connaît passé. Voilà, trop, je ne prends pas de temps pour me comprendre. Mais c'est comprendre l'autre monde qui passe dans quelle situation. Parce que il n'est pas capable de passer. Donc, je pas essayer d'adresser les ce qui signifie, et ça reste là, et puis tout le monde a viré et tourner dans le même cercle. Mais tout le monde dit que moi-même, je souffre plus. Mais je tendais ça, on a souffrir, je ne pas besoin d'aller dans ça. Alors, conseil t'as nous pour intervention pour faire, disons, nos sectes de famille?
Yeah, that's a good question. Je peux répondre en anglais ou français, Marie?
Either way, yes, thank
The
you.
one, yeah. And so
Yes.
is the question, just to make sure I understood it well in Creole, like how do you help intervene when
Yes.
it's family
How to
trauma?
make an intervention in case like this when the person tells you that I have enough
I
for
have not.
myself. I
Yeah,
want to trauma myself. So
yeah.
how could I take my time to consider someone else who went to trauma and try to come up
Support.
with an
Yeah.
explanation or to
Mhm.
consider what she had to say. But the other one is crying that
Mhm.
nobody cares, nobody understands. So
Mm,
either way, you hear
you hear it
that
all.
sound. Yes.
Yeah. And I think that is a hard one, right? Because you know what you're seeing. And it's like in those situations, I think it can help to sit the person down and say, listen, I notice that whenever I try to tell you something, you say, I don't need help, I don't have time for that, or I'm not traumatized. But these are the different ways in which I think you have something going on. And then you can name it. Sometimes you seem to get angry. Sometimes you complain that no one has your back. Sometimes you say you feel like the victim. So if you can actually give that language, then you can kind of say, this is what I feel I see. Would you agree with me that those things exist and that it's worth it to get some help, even if you don't want therapy? Talk about it. Tell us about what's going on. You don't have to pretend to be strong anymore. I love you. I have your back. I want you to tell me the truth. So I sometimes when we give someone the real talk, the vulnerable way of saying it, it gives them permission to kind of let it out and stop being stubborn or strong and just say what they feel.
Mm-mm.
Does that make
Can I
sense?
I know the time is short.
Mm,
Can I say something more? I try to be clarify something.
I
It's
think so, Dominique.
and
I think
the time is short. Yeah, it's like you are the third person,
mhm.
and between the two of the other two,
The two, right?
so
Okay, you're
complain to
mediating.
you, and you see the
Ah,
problem, and you try
yeah.
to tell that person that so and so has problem. So
Hmm.
try to consider that she went through some. You
Some
make her
things.
understand the emotional part and the trauma and everything, but the other one will tell you that I certainly have more than her. I don't have to
Uh,
listen to that.
yeah.
So that between the two, you don't
Hmm.
know what to say because they
Yeah.
complain that if my case is even worse than her.
Right. They do the
So I
compare.
don't have time for that. I don't
Yeah.
have time.
Yeah.
Okay, that's it.
No,
Thank
I
you.
appreciate, thank you for that because that's something I call the comparison game where people, you'll
Yes.
tell someone, I'm going through something and this is a problem. And in the Haitian community, what people will say back is, you're going through something? Oh, petit ou pas connaît? Me, I'm dealing with this. Me, I'm
Yes.
dealing with this. And then the person does not feel heard. And so that actually is one of the biggest complaints that my Haitian clients will have. No one is listening. Everybody is comparing over me what they've been through. So that's what we call deflection. So when people do that, you don't go back often to those people to talk because every time you try to open up to them, they don't really give you any empathy. When you have a relationship like that, the quality of the relationship is not good, it's low, it's poor. Because the basic brain is your brain is going to say, every time I try to speak to Marie, every time I speak to Adeline or Dominique, she makes me feel my problems are not important. So why should I keep opening up to her? And that's how we get relationships that are avoiding, loud, shouting, unsuccessful. And so your role, Marie, is also to take care of yourself too. So if you can say to them, you both have to deal directly with the source of your anger, which is each other. You need to learn to figure it out together. And so you can say to them, if you're both going to choose to one up one another, you're going to keep pretending that your problem is worse than hers, you're not going to get anywhere. And then that's all you can do because what's in your control is telling them what you see. But if they don't want to receive that, they're not at a place yet where they're able to do that type of growth work, or they're not ready to grow in the area you'd like to see them in. All you can do is grieve the part of you that wishes that they could get to that place where they could start to grow. That's your work, is to actually just change yourself by saying, I'm sad and I'm disappointed that they don't want to get there, but all I can do is watch and feel my own sadness about it. That's what I mean by validating yourself. Because, yeah, sorry, I got excited again. It's a good question, and there's so much more to say to that. It's a good topic.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you. I appreciate the question, Ali. It's a good one.
No problem. We got about, let's say, 2 minutes left. So I'm going to give you one last question, and then you can respond.
We have Madame Lacroix. Madame Lacroix wanted to, she has
oh, there was a hand?
Lacroix. I think.
Yes, bonsoir. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Yes, I would like to say a big thank you. So there were huge, big thank you to you guys for putting this together. And because in our community, people don't really believe on therapists.
Yeah, I agree.
And I remember my mom passed away suddenly.
I'm sorry.
And yeah, thank you. And I was talking to her around 2 o'clock to 3 o'clock. She called me and I said that, oh, mommy, I will call you back because I was in my office. I will call you back. By 4 o'clock, she went to get a
Madame Lacroix.
And now you're calling me to say my mom is no longer.
Sorry, Madame Lacroix, can you go back just a little bit? I got cut off. I didn't hear you said I'll call you back at 4 o'clock. And
no. She called me at 2 and I was busy. I just say a few things with her and I say, I will call you back.
Call you back. Yeah.
And I didn't get a chance. Because at 4 o'clock, she went to get a shower done and she didn't come out of the shower. And number one, she wanted to go to Haiti. And I said, Mommy, there is no way you can go to Haiti. If anything happened to you in Haiti, you will not make it. It's like exactly the way I saw it, that's what happened.
Yeah.
I can tell you, from March to July, I'm a really small, petite size. I lost 20 pounds. I came like a zombie. You know zombie when you say zombie? I was like a zombie. And I was sick, even physical. I can touch my body and it's hurt every part of my body. And then I went, my doctor did all the tests for me and nothing works.
Yeah.
And finally, I said, Doc, I have to start the therapy because I feel that I'm dying. And I start my therapy was on July. And I say, I'm not going to listen to nobody because I have to take care of myself.
Right. Good for you.
And I did it. In November, the same year, I lost a good friend. And I said, I am not going to put nothing on me. I am not going to put it because I cannot endure it. And I say that thing all the time if I have an opportunity to tell people. You know your body.
Yes.
You know how you are.
Yes.
If you see yourself, ou coucher dans cabane non pas qu'à lever, ou pas vle baigner, ou pas vle brosser dents, ou pas vle laver cheveux. That's not the Gali I used to know.
Yeah.
Moi reconnaître ça m'a pour c'est pas moi-même parce que moi kon tête moi.
C'est ça.
Et c'est là ça me lever et m'était dans mi-temps Covid. Moi mettais masque moi et puis m'aller dans thérapie normalement. M'pas jamais penser m'était ka rire encore. M'pas penser m'était ka parler. M'pas penser m'était ka parler avec moi parce que m'était me senti que c'est tout même test cancer me fait. Tellement m'était physiquement malade. Et m'a pas encouragé non pas occuper personne monde qui dit non thérapie pas marcher. Pas occuper personne non parce que moi-même moi son exemple vivant. tête moi. Son exemple vivant. Et c'est, that was the gift I give to myself.
Yes.
Et chaque monde moi qui gagne au monde mourir parce que yo dis ça dans mesure l'amour ou te gagne pour monde nan dispara leur fait séparation aussi the bond that's created between you two leur séparé avec monde nan profondeur la même genre. Et c'est exactement ça que je senti parce que je pas capable encore. Je me dis, beaucoup de me comme prier. Of course, il faut prier. Beaucoup de me dit, Seigneur, je gagne deux petits monde. Parce que côté moi là, je pas faire rien pour petit monde, mais voilà, c'est malade. Faut reconnaître au cas prier. L'Éternel mettait docteur, il mettait thérapeute, il mettait monde sous route. Pendant que vous priez, mon poko dans ciel, ou pas dans ciel ou sous terre. Sous gon malade sous terre, c'est sous terre pour le guérir. Merci Pierrette for the invitation, Marie-Jo. Thank you parce que nous toujours voyons Zoom ça, l'exa ban moi. Moi réellement content parce que le travail n'a fait extraordinaire. Pierrette, you know how much I love you. Moi j'aime travail là. And also the presenters, thank you so very much. Parce que grand monde là peut-être qui gon trauma, il pas contre côté trauma sorti.
Right.
Parce que depuis un trauma pas guéri, la vini sur l'autre forme so. Encore une fois, et pas moi celle qui pour parler. Thank you so very much. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Gali, thank you so much for sharing, and your strength to go to therapy despite the stigma or despite what you might have heard from people that you're not supposed to do that. And you did it anyway. It just speaks to how resourceful and how strong you are because you went against the status quo. And when that's hard to do, and you said enough is enough, that's very vulnerable. So I know we're out of time, and I know Dominic, you're about to tell me, but maybe you get 2 more minutes. But I just wanted to respond because I thought that was really brave and courageous of Madame Lacroix to do. Yeah.
No problem. I'm so sorry, but
I know.
Time. So I will have to ask our guest speaker to say any final remarks she may have before we conclude.
So, okay, I'll try to keep it short. Perrette, violent movies, yes. Depending on the age of the child, it can trigger PTSD. It's not as likely with a movie because you can be explained and helped through that. I just want to say to Placide, thank you for your comments. Gerard, everybody that I didn't name, I'm sorry, Shirley, Monique. And to Placide, we need a national healing process to move forward. Absolutely. If we lived in a world where we were all healed, we would not be living in the world we live today because everybody would have worked through their trauma. The problem with our world is that most people are living in a trauma response. Donald Trump, many leaders, all the things that I didn't have time to talk about, politics, all the things that we're seeing, we're going backwards in some ways in the States and other places. I just want to say quickly, that is why we're seeing a lot of people that are hurt because if you lead from a hurt position, you're leading from a traumatized, unhealed, and fight, flight, fawn position where you're in a trauma response. We never got the opportunity in high school, university, elementary school to learn about emotions, feelings, how to be secure, how to love yourself, how to love others, how to have healthy communication, how to assert what you need. So I just want to say that if ever you are down on yourself, thinking you're lacking something, it's not you, it's the system you're in that failed you. It's not you. We have no system in place unless you go to therapy or you become a therapist and you're privileged enough to access that information and knowledge. You don't learn about these things. You figure it out the hard way. So if anyone here ever feels you're mean to yourself, you put yourself down, please don't. Please don't, because that's not going to help you. Self-compassion is going to help you. Say, it's normal I'm feeling this way. It's normal I'm having a hard time. I didn't learn. Our parents are supposed to teach us, but our parents don't know either because no one told them. So we're not mad at parents either. That's just a function of our systems, right? They're lacking in a lot of ways. So please be kind to yourself if ever you feel you're calling yourself damaged or broken or traumatized. It's more than just you. It's the system that you live under and the world we're living in today. As many therapists, we talk about it together. We know the world does not have those tools they're finding it if they go to school and they get lectured on it, or if they're in the field or they're in therapy. So you're not alone if you're noticing something is always right with the environment you're in. It's not you. I know there's more I want to say on that topic, but I just want to leave with a general message if that helps anyone who feels lonely or like something is wrong. There's no shame in getting support. And if you're too afraid, go with your community to start. But don't let anyone ever tell you you can't get therapy or you can't heal from trauma. That's your right. It's all we have in this life is ourselves in terms of like who we're going to live with from the moment we start till we die. So don't let someone else dictate for you how you're going to choose to take care of yourself. It wouldn't make any sense. You deserve to love yourself. So yeah. So I hope I can come back maybe in the future, but yeah, I had more to say on this topic, but there's no time, and I can speak a lot about it. As you guys can see, I'm passionate about it, so I'm going to try to stop talking now.
You have to come back.
Thank you, Adeline. I appreciate you. Thank you, all of you. I appreciate all of you.
No problem. We appreciate having you here as well, giving us these wonderful words and insight, and we appreciate spending this evening with you.
Thank you so much. Appreciate you all.
Yes. So I will now conclude this program with a word of prayer. Yes. I'd like to say, dear Heavenly Father, thank you for allowing us to gather here. Thank you for allowing us to hear from our guest speaker. Actually protect us, guide us, and be with us. Allow us to reflect on the words and the knowledge that we gained today. Allow it to enrich our soul and allow it to interact with us so that we can have a better tomorrow as we move forward in life. I ask you to protect us, guide us, give us a wonderful night so that we may marinate on everything we learn. In Jesus' name I pray, amen.
Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Thank you. I have, before I conclude, I'll let you go. I have to say shout out not only to Myrlie, you know, you did it. And I also want to say a big thank you to Dominique. Dominique, this is the first time she does this with us, and she did it like a pro. So thank you so much. And then you, just like Myrlie, you didn't wait for us to ask again and again. So we asked and you said, okay, I'm ready to do it. And you did it. Thank you so much. And now we want to say thank you to everyone who made it possible for this to happen.
Thank you to our mother who's here.
C'est la fille de l'une des sœurs Tabitha. Eden is on the line. Eden, you did good. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Eden.
Also, sorry everybody, we didn't have time. So
Myrlie, your mother is here.
Hello.
Hello.